This is a Sessions video tutorial, Artist Interview.
In this interview, I'm going to discuss some of the things that influence me as an artist. Well, watercolor is really something that I fell in love with rather than I chose. I was always an oil painter, and then one day I was away from my studio for a long period of time and started doing watercolor as studies. And then I realized I was spending several weeks on my studies and they were getting more and more and more elaborate, and I started viewing them as paintings in their own right. And then I just got addicted. I just love watercolor and what you can achieve with it, and sort of just ran away with me. Painting on board is something that I do, but as I mentioned early on in lesson 1 when we were talking about paper types, it's not really something I recommend that other people do. It's I like it, and it's great for my purposes. It's super absorbent and it can hold more pigment quality than a piece of paper. So I can get the deep, lush colors that I have in certain paintings, like Veil of Time. But I would just advise you to start with paper. You can get it in all different sizes. It's cheaper, and but I like working on board too. I think composition is essential to good painting. You have to be able to suck your viewer in and kind of control their eye and manipulate the way that a viewer's eye moves around a painting. So oftentimes I think about the rhythm of a painting, almost like the beat of a song, how it sounds and where the highlights are and where the shadows are, and how those marks can kind of almost like create like a sort of pulse that pulls and pushes your eye around from one beat to the next. Other devices I use are more traditional: foreground, middle ground, background. Not having all areas of interest directly in the foreground, so it sort of pulls you in. But in each painting I approach composition a little differently. I like to pose new challenges for myself. Well, my subject matter is diverse in what it's depicting, but conceptually and philosophically, it's very much one and the same. I am fascinated by beauty, and my paintings sort of represent different ideals of the beautiful. They're all a bit nostalgic, and they all sort of portray the beauty of an interior, the beauty of a building, the beauty of a landscape, of an individual, a dancer, and they portray the sort of longing for things that are hyper beautiful. So with that, there becomes like a dual edge to the beautiful. I think that something that's truly beautiful has the potential to be slightly destructive as well. There are certain teachers that have blessed my life, and I wouldn't be the same person that I am today without their influence and guidance. I also find it's really important to be able to listen to criticism. Sometimes it's hard to take criticism and to listen to what your peers or your teachers or your contemporaries are saying. And sometimes as a student, you might feel like you know what you're doing and nobody else can say anything to you. But actually, I'm often surprised by what people see in my paintings that I didn't. And that's because painting is very much a process that resides in the subconscious. And even though you're intellectually and consciously doing certain things, there's other elements that maybe you instinctively knew you were putting into the piece, but until somebody actually articulated it to you, you didn't realize you were doing. So as you can see in this painting, Melody of Space, I've actually decided to reinforce that sense of longing or desire for this opulence and this beautiful by actually painting into the painting some series that sort of play with this idea of like loving and longing or courting for something that maybe you can have, maybe you can't. So here you have a Fragonard painting that's been painted into the painting, and
the man is sort of wooing the woman. And here on the love seat, you have two lovers. A man is down on bended knee, sort of almost proposing to the lady that he loves. And but to give you the sense that this idea of mine, that this longing for something that is inaccessible, whether that be love or decadence in this painting, you are, in order to travel to these images, you would have to walk across this floor, which, as you can see, I've chosen to use a little bit of the puddling techniques to almost create a floor that, while holding to this ornate wooden checkered pattern that these rooms might have, is almost feels like water, like you would fall through it and you couldn't, it's not a stable surface for you to stand on, as is perhaps maybe these ideas that I'm portraying aren't 100% the ideal, even though they're depicting something that seems idyllic. So as my students, I'm showing you this and I'm telling you about some of the concepts and ideas I integrate into my work, so that hopefully you can start to think about taking your own painting beyond the realm of the subject that you're painting, to incorporating both your ideas, your philosophies, your content in with what you're depicting and how you're depicting it.